If you're relying on squats to grow your hamstrings, you're fundamentally misunderstanding how neuromuscular coordination governs multi-joint movement. Yes, the hamstrings are active, but activity alone doesn't equate to hypertrophic stimulus. What actually happens during compound lifts like the squat is shaped by a spinal reflex known as reciprocal inhibition, sometimes referred to as antagonist inhibition. This mechanism is mediated by 1A afferents from the muscle spindles in the agonist, in this example the quads. These afferents synapse onto inhibitory interneurons, which in turn suppress motor neuron output to the antagonist, the hamstrings. Functionally, this limits internal opposition and permits more efficient force production during knee extension. But squats complicate this reflex because of the biarticular anatomy of the hamstrings. They cross both the hip and knee, acting as hip extensors while simultaneously being knee flexors, directly opposing the action of the quads. This creates a neural conflict. The nervous system can't simultaneously allow full hip extension contribution and suppress knee flexor torque without some sort of compromise. So what emerges from the situation is something called partial coactivation, which is insufficient to generate meaningful mechanical loading across the entire muscle. And since mechanical tension is the primary driver of hypertrophy, the hamstrings are left understimulated for growth. The fiber level consequence is this: as the proximal hamstrings shorten concentrically at the hip, the distal region is lengthening under reflexive inhibition at the knee. This force cancelling dynamic limits the net torque contribution of the hamstrings, especially during the concentric phase. Even exercises with partial overlap like an RDL show reduced hamstring activity compared to straight leg variations. This is because the flexed knee position maintains a level of reciprocal inhibition, again limiting tension through the full length of the muscle. The straight leg deadlift, on the other hand, removes this constraint. By extending the knee and focusing load through hip extension only, the hamstrings can act as uninterrupted agonists, lengthened, loaded, and free from antagonist conflict. And the practical implication is clear. If a muscle's function is antagonist to the joint mechanics of a compound lift, it will be reflexively inhibited, even if it's biarticularly involved. To grow the hamstrings, you need to program around this constraint. Exercises like seated leg curls, Nordic curls, and stiff leg deadlifts allow the hamstrings to act as pure agonists, uninhibited, lengthened, and directly loaded. Because the squat doesn't fail to target the hamstrings due to poor form or range, it fails to target them because your nervous system is prioritizing efficiency over tension.